It's great to see everyone here at the Chinese Cultural Center this morning. What a great day! We have some exciting news for everyone. But first, I'd like to recognize a few special guests. MPP Alice Babakian from Scarborough Aging Court and MPP BJ Tanikansalam from Scarborough Rouge Park and MPP David Smith from Scarborough Center. And it's great to see you all here. Each of you are doing a marvelous job helping build Scarborough and Ontario together. And thank you for being here. You know, before I warmly welcome my BF of Minister of Finance, Peter Bethlenfalvy, I have to say a few words. You know, I've been a politician in Scarborough over 30 years as Toronto City Councillor and the MPP for Queen's Park. Now I could see the difference day and night between the previous government and this government. Everybody remembers, each time we have an election, the previous government said, liberal, subway, subway, subway. They never delivered. But this government, under the leadership of Premier Ford, we are bringing subway, no subway 401. And we are building new hospital in Scarborough and modernizing all the hospitals in Scarborough and all Ontario. And for the first time in Scarborough, we are building medical school at this University of Toronto Scarborough campus. So the difference. And I said earlier, my BFF, why I'm saying my Minister of Finance, my BFF, every time I ask the Minister more money for seniors and more money for people with disability, he never said no, and I really appreciate that. He's a very caring Minister of Finance. Now, we could give a warm Scarborough welcome to Ontario Minister of Finance, our BFF, Minister Peter Bethlenfalvy, who will bring us some great news. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. That was amazing. Wouldn't you agree, ladies and gentlemen, it's really hard to say no to Raymond Cho. He's an extraordinary Canadian, an extraordinary man, and it's true. We are very good friends, and I respect him tremendously in everything he's done for the people of Scarborough. Hello and good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you all today. I'd also like to give a shout out to my colleagues in caucus, who Raymond just did, who are in attendance today, Vijay Thanagasalam, Dave Smith, Aris Babikian. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Raymond, again, for being the champion and friend you are. I would also like to acknowledge and take a moment to thank the Chinese Cultural Centre of Greater Toronto for hosting us today here. Alan, thank you. Angela, thank you. And it's great to see that you brought the sunshine for this morning. And of course, the weather is a provincial responsibility, so we'll take some of the credit for the weather as well. You know, you folks are doing incredible work here, you know, at the Chinese Cultural Centre and supporting seniors in our community. The centre has served 15,000 plus hot meals to homebound seniors through their One Meal at a Time program. Truly an example of the Ontario spirit. You know, thank you to all of those and many of you who have played a role in preparing and delivering these meals. Yesterday, it was my sincere pleasure to introduce the 2023 Ontario budget, Building a Stronger Ontario, the first budget of our government's mandate following last year's summer election. This plan is a responsible, targeted approach to help people, to help businesses, while laying a strong fiscal foundation for future generations. It's a plan to build a strong economy now and for the future. It's a plan to build a strong healthcare system that connects people to the right care. It's a plan to build new long-term care homes, new hospitals, new schools, and childcare spaces. It's a plan to make life more affordable with better services for you and safer streets. It is a plan for us to do all of this at the same time as returning Ontario to a balanced budget. Like the rest of the world, Ontario is facing uncertain times. Many people are feeling extra pressure in our wallets due to the economy that we find ourselves in. And this is especially true for the most vulnerable, such as those on fixed income, like many low-income seniors. In the fall, we announced the doubling of the Guaranteed Annual Income System, also known as GAINS. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Raymond likes it. We announced the doubling of the GAINS payments for eligible low-income seniors starting last January, January 1st. So the payments are going throughout the end of the year, 12 months. And today, I'm pleased to announce that we are continuing to support seniors to help them live comfortably and with dignity. As part of our 2023 budget, we are proposing to expand eligibility of the GAINS program starting in July of 2024 so that 100,000 additional seniors would be eligible for this program. And we are also proposing to index this program, the GAINS benefit, indexing it to inflation so that when the costs rise, so would our support. Our government is working to protect and support our most vulnerable seniors. Elder abuse is also absolutely a heinous crime. And to help those experiencing that or at risk of experiencing elder abuse, we are expanding the Senior Safety Line. This $1 billion investment over 3 years will expand the provinces-wide helpline that connects seniors to resources to help. Ontario seniors have built this province, and you deserve to live comfortably and with dignity. Our government is also accelerating investments in home and community care to help those who need care receive it closer to home. We're investing $174 million over 2 years in addition to home and community care in the Community Paramedicine Program to provide additional care to seniors at home. Now, many of you know this is uncertain economic times, especially for seniors, for families, and businesses in Ontario. But our plan, our Build a Strong Ontario plan, is the right one to navigate us through these challenges. This is the right plan to support seniors, led by the right Premier, with the right team, and together we will build Ontario that we can all be proud of, not only for today, but for the future. Thank you very much. And with that, I'd be happy to take some questions.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to the floor. One question and one follow-up, please. Thank you.
Hi, Minister.
Good morning.
I was hoping to hear a few more details from you about the urban mobility vehicle pilot project talked about in the budget. What would your government be hoping to accomplish with that, and why is it something you're looking at exploring?
So, great question. The urban mobility vehicle program is, we're seeing right across the world, new types of vehicles to get people from place A to place B, and so there's a lot of development in motorized bicycles, motorized three-wheel cars that are maybe not for highways and major roads, but in our communities. So what we announced is that we're going to work with municipalities and work with our partners to develop a framework to see if that makes a sense, that there's demand, that we can put in the safety and the regulations that would make sense in our communities. Lots of municipalities have asked us for this. Peterborough, for example, is one that's asked us for this. We've got manufacturers that are based here in Ontario developing those types of vehicles. By the way, they're very green vehicles. They're safe and they're in our communities for short distances, so we want to open up the opportunity to explore that.
Right, and I was also hoping to hear from you what Ontario wants to see in the upcoming federal budget.
Well, that's a great question, and now that I've done mine, I'm looking forward to Chrystia Freeland delivering her budget. And by the way, she sent me a very nice text last night, and I sent her one this morning wishing her best of luck, because these are challenging economic times, these are challenging geopolitical times, and one of the core areas that I've talked to her and talked to others and Prime Minister Trudeau about is, particularly with President Biden being here today, is to talk about how we can work closer together in an economic fashion. And by that I mean the critical minerals. You know, 34 of those critical minerals that are necessary for battery manufacturing are right here in Ontario. And that security of supply, the access to the supply, work with us on the Ring of Fire, work with us on infrastructure, work with us on permitting and approvals, so that we can not only bring prosperity to the north, led by the First Nations. They're leading the environmental assessment and the plan to build the infrastructure. But that's core to our plan to build more electric vehicles, to ship those minerals from northern Ontario to southern Ontario, where folks, Volkswagen announced the biggest battery manufacturing plant in Canadian history, the first time in Canada that they're coming to invest here in Ontario. They could have gone anywhere. They're coming here for battery manufacturing. And of course, those critical minerals that go into the batteries will go into the electric vehicles, because we want to be the champions of North America on building electric vehicles right here in Ontario. And that's good for the economy, that's good for good paying jobs, and that's good for the climate. Thank you.
A little clarification. You're looking for, you want them to match the $1 billion for the Ring of Fire?
Yes, so
Is
some
that
more
the
clarity.
dollar
Thank
value?
you for that follow-up. Yeah. I feel like I'm in the House, a supplemental. No, absolutely, Alison. That is, we put in $1 billion of capital. We want not only the federal government to match that, but not just the dollars. Work with us on the actually getting the permitting, the approvals, and sending a message to President Biden and the rest of the world that Canada, and Ontario in particular, is a great place to invest capital. We mine minerals ethically, responsibly, but reliably. They're right here in North America as the world changes around us. Thank you.
Hi, Minister. Pivoting from what you want from a senior level of government, there's what another level of government wants from you. So we've got a situation where the province is seeing its tax revenues rise fairly substantially, and at the same time you've got municipalities that are feeling quite strapped for cash. So on a structural level, rather than like even talking about one-time bailouts, structurally, does something have to change? What needs to happen so that municipalities aren't so cash-strapped?
You know, it's a very good question, Mike, and you know, we really do have to think, not just short-term, but long-term. What are the things that we can do together? I think if we learn one thing in the pandemic, is that when federal government, municipal government, and provincial governments work together, we can accomplish things. We are listening to the big city mayors, for example. They represent 70% of the province's population. I have a lot of conversations with them. They asked for supportive housing and mental health as their top priorities in this budget. Now, there are other things that we need to talk about, more infrastructure, housing, a bunch of those things, the financial framework that you're talking about. But right now, they wanted help on supportive housing and mental health, and we delivered that. Now, municipalities have to do their part in that conversation about a financial framework. That's why we're sitting down with them and going through their books collaboratively to say, okay, what are the pressures, what are the challenges, and how can we work together municipally, provincially, and federally to have a sustainable framework for the long term.
Okay, another question. My information is that Treasury Board had outside consultants involved in offering advice and input in the budgetary process. Can you confirm that? How appropriate is it that there are outside consultants from firms like PwC working with the government in framing what's in the budget? To what extent did the government use outside consultants in this?
I'm not familiar with that, Mike. Perhaps we can follow up and talk to Treasury Board. I'll tell you the consultants I used. We went around the province. We did budget consultations right around the province, did dozens of them in the north, in the east, in the south, right here in Toronto. We did one in Durham, we did one in Mississauga, we did one in Brampton, in Kenora, in Timmins, in Ottawa, right across the province. Because talking to people, talking to individuals and hearing what they have to say in budget consultations as we talk to constituents and caucus. I've got a great team who feeds back information to us. And, you know, that happens over a full year. You know, I was kidding to my team this morning. We started work on Budget 2024 already. And it means that you have to listen and consult with people right around the clock. And so those are the consultants I use. We'll follow up. I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. Thank you.
Hi, Minister. How are you?
Jeff.
I wanted to ask a question. I got a statement from the Canadian Council of Innovators about the budget, and they're disappointed that the 10% manufacturing tax credit doesn't apply to sort of these industries of the future. They mentioned cybersecurity, digital services. Are you picking winners and losers here? Shouldn't this apply to all these industries, including the ones that are going to be the job creators of the future?
Well, thanks for that, Jeff. You know, we're very supportive of all jobs and businesses across Ontario. I think with regard to technology companies, I talked to the Council of Innovators, I talked to Communitech, I talked to Mars. We put another $1 million into Invest Ottawa annually for the next 3 years so they can be a regional hub for innovation. And we are very supportive of our tech sector, and I will continue to have conversations with them. You know, our technology industry in Ontario is very large, and so with the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank, I had conversations with Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister in Ottawa, and as well as other officials to ensure that we continue to provide capital and support to the tech companies. But I'll tell you this, the electric vehicle investments that we're making require a lot of technology, and the Manufacturing Ontario-Made Investment Tax Credit will help the supply chain support those big companies that come here. So they'll be great for communities, they'll be great for the economy, and they'll be great for good jobs and bigger paychecks, and they'll be great for the technology sector.
I also wanted to ask a question just about the budget yesterday with regard to the reserve funds. So not the contingency funds that everyone talks about, the reserve funds, which typically $1 billion, $2 billion to protect the government from kind of a miss on its deficit figure. You're going to have $4 billion in that fund in a couple of years. Why is it so much? Why is that so big in 2 years? You know, traditionally it's much lower. Why are you doing that?
Well, you know, serious times like we're in require serious budgets, and I think we're in very uncertain times. I mentioned it in my budget speech yesterday. We have stormy seas out there, and it's my job as finance minister to be prudent, and it's my job. I wouldn't be doing my job as finance minister if I didn't have prudence in the form of reserves and contingency funds built into the budget. I haven't seen this level of volatility in markets, in geopolitical, in economic terms in decades. You know, we have Russia invading Ukraine. We have interest rates and inflation that we haven't seen in 4 decades. We have, you know, President Biden up here after announcing a $360 billion Inflation Reduction Act, protectionism mechanism for the United States. So my job is to make sure that whatever comes around the corner, that we have enough reserves, that we have enough prudence built into that budget, that we can navigate any environment, whether it's slower growth, faster growth, and whatever might come. So it's a measure of prudence, I think, Jeff, in these very uncertain and volatile times.
One of the audits of communities who've asked to be made whole under Bill 23 lost charges, they're one of those going to start in earnest, and when do you expect to have an answer for them about whether they, you know, whether the government agrees that they need to be made whole?
I think, thank you for that question. You know, what, we're rolling up our sleeves, and that process is working in terms of identifying the process. Steve Clark, our municipal affairs and housing minister, is leading that charge. I think, you know, I can't give you specific timelines, but I can tell you there's a sense of urgency in the provincial government. I'm sure there's a sense of urgency with the municipal government, because we need to build those 1.5 million homes. People are coming to this great province. Last year, 440,000 growth in population. We're hitting 15.36 million population. I mean, it's growing leaps and bounds. We've got to have a sense of urgency about building those 1.5 million homes. But we have to also have an urgency to build that Scarborough subway that you talked about, Raymond. Diggy Stardust is right underneath our feet, not far away, drilling the hole for that subway to come to Scarborough. The hospital that you mentioned, Raymond, we got to have a sense of urgency of building that health care. And I'll just say we have a sense of urgency to make sure that we have the workers, skilled trades, the construction people to build it, the healthcare workers, the education workers, because as our population grows, we have to make sure that we're prepared for the environment as we grow our economy and our infrastructure.
Is it fair to say that they will be done before the cities go into their next budget cycle?
I can't give a timeline. That's something you'll have to ask the minister, but I can tell you, Siobhan, that there is a sense of urgency right around the table, and we, as well, with the federal government. This is all hands on deck to deal with the crisis in housing in Ontario. Thank you.
And this next question will be the last question.
Hi, Minister. My question is go to the Ontario Guaranteed Annual Income System Payment for Seniors. Question 1 is who is qualified for this program? Question 2 is how to apply for this program. I mean, so ask seniors to apply online, or is automatically to send a payment to the seniors? Last question is to how many seniors in Ontario get benefit from this program?
Those are three great questions. On the first question, how do you qualify? It's income tested, so it's based on your private source income, and there's qualification levels. Number two, how do you apply? There's a lot of information on the website as you can then apply for these types of credits. You can also talk to the MPPs, all constituents, to help navigate, because it sometimes can be tricky to navigate government, I'll give you that. And thirdly, in terms of, I think you asked how many people can qualify. Right now we estimate with the benefits that we announced starting January 1st of this year, some 200,000 will qualify of low-income seniors. You have to have these. This is really to help people who need help with expenses, people who are hit because of the high inflation and don't have the income sources that many others might have. So that's about 200,000, and with these measures, we think another 100,000 will qualify. So some 300,000 people in Ontario will benefit in some way, in some part, through this program. Thank you for the question.
Great, thank you. That concludes the press conference today.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for being here, and I really appreciate your support. Thank you.